back this time. But I thought I'd talk to you about three things, really, and they're all based around something that I get asked quite a lot by people. Well, what's the role of a chief? What do you do? And when I left the army, it was one of the questions I asked people when I went in a change of career. I say to people, well, what do you do? And people are very bad at telling you what they do. And so I used to say, well, right, well, what do you do in the morning? And what do you do when you come into the office? And actually you found out all sorts of things, like probably the first thing the person did was to make a cup of coffee and have a cigarette, or and you didn't get down to doing very much until about 10 o'clock. But the thing about being a chief is that it's not a full-time occupation, or it shouldn't be a full-time occupation, because if you're doing that, you are not earning the money that you need to do to look after your family and look after somewhere like Duart. So let me tell you what I think my main roles are as chief. And Peter mentioned one of them, and that's Duart. As a clan, and there are certainly the MacLeods here know it as well, that having a base for your clan in Scotland makes an enormous difference to us and to you and to people who want to come and find out a bit about their history. When my great-grandfather restored Duart in it started at the end of 1911, when he did it, he said, I'm doing this for my family, the clan. So it's always been in my family the view that, yes, Duart was done by him, and I lived there, and I paid the taxes on it, and all those sort of mundane things. But it's just as much your home as it is mine. Well, not to all these other clans that are here, the McDonald's and people. We don't know what they get up to, but it is for you. And when I was interviewed by Red Simmons is he, from Melbourne, and he started talking to me about being a chief, and he said, you know, a lot of you Poms come over, and you know, we put you up and we take you round, and what happened if a whole lot of Macleans came to Duart? And I said, well, there's only one problem, and that is that it's actually open to the public. So if they did all want to doss down in the banqueting hall or sea room, only too happy. The only thing is they'd have to be out of their beds and away by 9:15 when we open up to the public. He didn't think it was a very good idea to come and stay with us. But basically, Duart is there for you to visit, come and see, and if I'm there, I'll always try and meet you, and just discover a bit about your family. Now, some of you have done all this, and I'm speaking to those who are converted, but look on it like the hub of a wheel, and I'm sure the MacLeods do the same at Dunvegan, is if you go to Duart, you can find out the basic bits about the clan, all its branches, all its various chieftains, where they all came from, and then you can take a decision. Either you say, yeah, I'm quite interested in this, let's find out more, seen enough, let's go back and I'll play golf every Saturday afternoon, and I don't need to do any more about it. But you're given the opportunity, and I think that's what Duart does. And I see that as probably one of my most important tasks, is to keep Duart alive and active and there for you. And I've certainly told Peter and Kay the story, but when my father died in 1990, the summer there was quite a tough summer for us, because my mother, not surprisingly, was very upset about him dying quicker than she thought he should have. And I was cleaning something in the courtyard, and I can't remember what it was, Peter, but I was cleaning something there. And this quite small man was standing on the top of the steps. And those who have been to Duart, probably a lot of you have stood at the top of the steps there. And he was standing there being photographed by his wife, who was down below. And he was in his 60s, what one reckoned. And he was standing there, and he was going like this. And so I said, you must be a Maclean. And he said, yes, I am. And he said, who are you? So you might have guessed by now he was Australian. But so he was someone who'd worked in a bakery in Melbourne all his life. And his grandfather had come out to Australia. His father had never been able to go back to Scotland. And he said to me, and I'm no reason to doubt it, that all his life this had been his aim. And he just retired, and he was coming back home. Now, if you have a building like Duart, and someone says that to you, what can you do about it? You know, morally, one has a very moral responsibility to all of you to try and keep the place going. And so it's very nice when people come and say, you know, thank you. Some don't always say that. They say, I wish the weather was better, or things like that. But I think that's one of my biggest parts of being a chief, is actually making or keeping Duart there for you to all come and visit and see as a home. The second one that is somewhat similar, and Peter mentioned it when he was talking, and that's the Heritage Trust. I think the name Heritage Trust sometimes makes the younger amongst you think, oh, God, you know, old buildings, old things, old facts. But there is a bit of that in the Heritage Trust. But the basics of the Heritage Trust was it was set up in the mid-90s because there was no charitable system in the clan, i.e. if people wanted to leave money or people wanted to donate anything, there was no system that it could be done by the sort of UK charitable systems. So we set up this trust. And how the trust is funded is by friends. And the friends, I'm sure you have similar systems over here, but the friends of the trust pay a subscription each year, in return of which they get a gift every Christmas. I mean, you know, it's not a diamond brooch. The last one was, one before last was a little frame picture of Sir Alan Maclean, who saved Canada from the Americans, with an explanation. And there have been a whole raft of things that we've done, and we have about 50 members, and they're the core base. But I would like you to think a little bit about it, and think if it might be something that interests you. And amongst us here is Brown, who's been a trustee for a number of years, and one of the trustees' roles, but it's all one of your roles, is if you know a prominent Maclean who's done something really important and you think he should be recognised, well then tell us. Because I say it here in Australia, where you've taken a number of initiatives, but in the United States, where there are probably more Macleans than anywhere else in the world, there hasn't been a single thing done. There's another one that you probably all know about, and this is the 200th anniversary. And over here in Western Australia, it's nothing like as crucial to you, for Lachlan Macquarie becoming the governor of New South Wales. And we had this a couple of months ago, the governor of New South Wales, a lady called Marie Bashar, came to see Macquarie's mausoleum, because Macquarie was born in Alva, one of the islands off Mull, and is buried there. And a lot of Australians now want to go and see it. 20 years ago, with all due respect to Australians, they didn't know a great deal about him, but I think he's one of the most important men in the history of Australia, who said that if a man had served his time, he should be a free man. And that surely is a fair thing to say. What haven't I done that I think I should have done? And I hope I'm always honest in these sort of things. And the thing that we have not done enough about is genealogy. And probably on every table here, there's someone who wants to find out something about their ancestors. And Australia, again, is way ahead of most of the other parts of the world, in that Marigold and Edwin do have I don't know if it's a website or just a database with all Macleans they've come across. Go on the website, and you found links between, and I think there is a gentleman here whose family originated in southern Australia, but when I was last out here, there'd been a great success, because one of the Macleans, who were the first people to grow wheat in South Australia, had a black sheep in their family at some stage, or maybe it was a black woman. That sounds awful, but you know what I mean. And he or she was sent to Perth, and they were never talked about in the family. And it was only through that genealogical research that it came out that there were cousins, not very distant cousins, who I think didn't know each other. So there's lots of scope for that. And if I win the lottery, as well as putting Duart completely right and watertight, what my dream is to have somewhere at Duart a building where there would be an archivist and probably a bank of computers, much to my horror, that would be able to help people when they come to try and find out their ancestry and where they came from. So although I'm 68, there's still a lot to do, and that's one of my great ambitions. Finally, the gathering in 2012, the centenary of the first one, is going to be a very special gathering. And if any of you are thinking of coming to Scotland in the next few years, I really would suggest you try and come to that. 18th of June to the 25th of June. It's based on Mull. Because it's the centenary of the first gathering held at Duart, it'll mainly take place, or a lot of it will take place at Duart. We've got Alan Maclean, who's putting it all together, or he's the mastermind behind it. He's got some new ideas of things to do. There's going to be a couple of trips to Cole to see Brecada and the Macleans of Cole land. So if any of you have Cole ancestors, that's something to look forward to, as well as a number of the things that we've done before. The great thing about it is that we're going to try and have me or a member of my family there, so that when you sign the book, we will all meet you. Because one of the problems we've had in the past is I get caught by someone and I suddenly find it's 2:30 when I thought it was 12:15. So we hope that we're going to be more participative with you, which is a terribly important thing about it. Right, enough said, but can I just thank those who organised my trip. Peter knows the hazards, I think, of these long journeys. And one of the great things here in Perth, I do spend a few nights in the same bed. When I go to New Zealand and I'm in Sydney, I'm moving around quite a lot. So I did say to someone, well, where am I going to do my washing? And he said, my wife will do that for you. And I thought, this doesn't happen in the UK. It may happen in Australia, but it doesn't happen in the UK. But thank you again very much for inviting me. Thank you very much all for coming. And thank you very much for my present, which I will read, I know, with interest. And I can't thank you all enough for all coming today. So see you soon.
Thank you very much, Sir Lachlan, and I would like to acknowledge, with the references to Dr. Archibald Lang Maclean and the Antarctic expedition, that we're fortunate today to have his grandniece here with us, Marie, and we welcome you as part of that history, and also your son and your daughter-in-law, Key. Welcome. Sir Lachlan, I'm afraid we've got to put you to work, but it's a very pleasant task. We have 4 new members to welcome today. They've paid their subscription, otherwise they wouldn't get the certificate. So they're very privileged, of course, that there's not many new joining members that can have their certificate presented by the clan chief. And I would like to ask, firstly, Lorraine Crothers to come forward. Lorraine, to receive your certificate of membership. And I might mention that Lorraine and her husband have come all the way from Geraldton to be with us this weekend. They were with us yesterday and again today. Son Peter has joined and wasn't able to travel. So Sir Lachlan will pass on the certificate for Peter as well. Thanks, Lorraine, and we welcome you to our WA Clan Association. Yes, there's Peter's in there. Yeah. That's good. Yes, Lachlan has just asked if I'd like to deliver a commercial, and that is that if you would like to join today and have the privilege of being accepted into membership with the ratification of our chief, feel free to come forward, see Kay and shake hands with the chief. And we have two more certificates, husband and wife, Scott and Kate. Romantic Scott is, the chief has already alluded to it, but Scott proposed at Jewett Castle in 2006, and here's the proud bride.
It's always nice when a young Maclean takes a pretty bride.
Thanks, Lachlan. Thank you very much. Concludes our formalities, so to speak, and we thank our chief again. The maitre d' will now organise tables to go for dessert, except for the pipers who should now go and tune up their instruments. Thank you.
You've heard already that Peter and Kay have been the main organisers. We on the organising committee really felt we didn't have much to do because Kay seemed to be doing everything. Just to acknowledge that, we have here just a token to show our appreciation given by Lauren Maclean.